take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blackwell. And let me say Hotep Habaragani to my Africana Studies colleagues and contemporaries and seekers after the truth all. And let me also say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I always found goodbyes to be quite traumatizing. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church, and we're located at 8916 South Main Street here in the city of Los Angeles. That's 8916 South Main Street, Los Angeles, California, 9003. And the offering that you are viewing is entitled, is a social justice offering, and it is entitled "It's Time," with social justice and time of two very broad subjects, as your teachers of English would inform you. But what we try to concentrate on in the social justice is the environment, which we're doing a poor job of, and the economy, which affects all of us, poor, so-called middle class, and rich, because the rich don't worry about the environment, since they're the major ones that benefit from its corruption, and they make billions and trillions of dollars, and then also are connected with the pharmaceutical companies and the hospitals that treat those of us who are ill-treated, or who are not the beneficiaries of their pollution and the like. And so this is why we have to be careful, because the rich only look out for themselves. When I'm talking about rich, I'm talking about the big corporations like the Sackler family, but so many others, whether it's Union Carbide or one of their derivatives companies. They make the money, and the damage that they do to the environment and to the people that live and work in and around their plants, they don't care about us, no. And so here in the 21st century, we are seeing the collective effects, cumulative effects of all of the pollution that has been dumped into our rivers, our streams, our brooks, our bios, and all of that ends up out in our oceans. And we are beginning to reap a legacy of pollution all around the world, It's not limited to Los Angeles or California, but it's worldwide. This pollution, and it's resulting in climate increases. Hurricanes are more damaging because the temperatures of the oceans and the rivers are rising, and it's a delicate balance. And if you don't take care of your environment, the Bible says, I will vomit you out. Well, that's what the earth is beginning to do. It's beginning to vomit us out because we have so polluted not just the surface of the ground, but down inside of the depths of the earth. We are sowing pollutions. And a lot of these pollutions are cancerous, and they cause debilitating respiratory illnesses in all of us. Regardless how much we lift weights or go to the weight room or how we run or walk, we are still subject to the effects and the diseases that this pollution is causing. I didn't mean to go that far on that, because I wanted to talk about the fact that it was said, I don't forget who said it right now, that I would rather see a sermon than hear one, and what you do speaks so loudly I can't hear what you are saying. Some of us are not good speakers, and in arguments, the other person seems to win the argument because they can overtalk us, not because we are not right, and not because that other person is not wrong, but because they have a more gift of gab than we do. They can articulate their subjects and their verbs, and we get tongue-tied and bogged down in our language. And I said all of that because if you watch the debates, then of course, depending on whose side you're on, you have a very, it's been a very difficult 24 hours, no doubt about it. But we must remember that just because a person can talk well doesn't mean that they are doing well. And what I like about Joe Biden is that he did well. When he came into office, he started right away to try to get the PPE out to the people and get a vaccine developed, and then he gave the vaccine away, and he gave all of us checks. First check that I got at the house was $1,200, and this is talking about during COVID, and then another check for $600 to bring it up to $1,400, and a supplemental check that actually brought it up to $2,000 plus. The indigent, the poor, especially mothers with children, they got extra money in their paychecks. Excuse me, not in their paychecks, but from the government to feed their children, to take care, pay their rent, and all of these were pluses early in Joe Biden's administration, and a lot of those programs are going away now, but they were so valuable at the time that they were extended to the general public that I don't think you should throw this man under the bus because he can't talk right. Remember, Moses was not an articulate man either, and God put his brother Aaron to help him because Moses had an impediment of speech. He had a stutter, and he talked. It took him a long time to get his words together. And I don't think we should laugh at Joe Biden because all of us are headed that way, because I'm 76 now and I know the feeling. But these type of things we must weigh as well as the benefits. I like the fact that the Biden administration uncovered the fraud that the states were committing against the historically black colleges and universities because they were not matching what the government was giving them. Take Tennessee, for example. The government was giving money for Tennessee State University, but the state of Tennessee was taking that money and giving it to the white the white university. So the Biden administration pulled the covers off of that duplicity and said that the state, just the state of Tennessee, owed the historically black college. I only mentioned TSU, Tennessee State University. I didn't mention Meharry, which was the only college in the country on that end that was training doctors and nurses in medicine. Some of our greatest doctors came out of Meharry, right there in the state of Tennessee. But my point is that the Biden administration was giving $16 billion to black colleges. I'm talking about Texas Southern and Houston. I already mentioned Tennessee State there in Tennessee, Meharry, and then Fisk University, and then Southern University in Louisiana. I'm not going to go through the whole list but it's there for you to download and see how much money that the Biden administration gave to historically black colleges and universities. Biden administration gave away more money than the Obama administration, and not to mention how the Trump administration zeroed out the money, and some alert congressperson, a woman at this time, put it back in. So all of these things Mr. Biden has done that are good, and we should not throw him under the bus because of a bad night, because we all going to get old like that, and stutter and trip over our tongues and sometimes have brain freeze. When you get my age, you call it a senior moment and you laugh it off. But when it's on the big stage like Biden was and Trump were on last night, then of course it looks much worse than it is. And then of course the Trump campaign is going to make much hay out of it. But then you got to look, like I said, Joe Biden has been good for the United States. He brought the unemployment for black people down, and he put the first black woman on the U.S. Supreme Court, and not to mention that his vice president is a woman, and there's no sense in abandoning the ship and looking for somebody else to run in Joe Biden's place. Sure, he stumbled. We all stumble. But don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. What he has done that he could not articulate or did not articulate, and that's been the biggest problem with the Democratic campaign committee. They don't get the word out about how many benefits and how a Biden administration had benefit not only black people but the whole entire country. And so I think we have to weigh all of that before we say, well, Joe, you're too old, and we're going to get somebody else. Because we sure can't endure not even 1 week of a Donald Trump administration. But of course, I'm not here to talk about that either. But I just thought I would throw that out for us to think about. Let me talk about that the son-in-law of Donald Trump is already making deals to build condos in the West Bank. Now, the Israelis are tearing up the Gaza, but they're also tearing up the West Bank and running the people away from their houses in the night season, and not allowing them to come back to their houses that they have had for generations, some for thousands of years. But the Trumpites are planning to build condos, well, in other words, in collusion with Netanyahu and his radical far-right Zionist people. And so you got to keep your eye on that situation. And not only that, but the Supreme Court is giving Trump a win on the January 6th ruling. They could overturn all of the convictions that the Attorney General has been able to secure against those who were trying to stop the orderly transition of power and who were trying to stop the count of the vote in the Congress on that day when they went up on the walls of the Capitol. And I don't know how you think about it, but that was an insurrection. That was it was really treason, but they don't call it treason because it was mostly white folk. And the few foolish black people that got sucked up in that have quite rightly been convicted and of their unlawful acts. And Donald Trump, by law, should really not be running for president because the 14th Amendment says that anyone who has taken a vow to uphold the Constitution, but then went about to overthrow that Constitution, cannot hold any office. And somehow the Supreme Court skirted around that when it came to Donald Trump. But they're attempting to, this latest ruling is I think it's going to be a win for him, because it calls in question one of the charges that the Justice Department went after. Merrick Garland is the Attorney General for the United States of America. And he's been a little bit slow himself, because he should have started those charges that the January 6th committee forwarded to him. He should have really have started that way back earlier than he did. And if he had done so, then the cases that are pending down in Georgia and Florida as well would have been that further along. In other words, they would have been filed earlier, and the calendar clock would not have been running out on these cases, with the danger that if Trump gets back in, he will pardon all of those people and persecute those attorney generals or DAs out of office. He's already said that's what he's going to do. All right, now look at Steve Bannon. He's supposed to go to jail for 4 months, but 4 months. I don't know why these fellas can do such dastardly deeds, but only get 4 months. Well, if I steal a loaf of bread, I got to at least get a year, if not five years, you know. But that's white privilege, boy, is always coming to bear for white people. And then, of course, you can look at white privilege and what is Donald Trump, a 34-time convicted felon, but yet he can run for the top job in the nation. And if a convicted felon like him can run for that office, or for that job, I should put it that in that term, every application for rentals or for buying a house or whatever loan application or to get Section 8, all of that should be rewritten, and that felon, that question, are you convicted, of a felon, should be taken out. Because how are you going to let this Donald Trump run for the top job and he's a convicted felon? But it's all right if he's a convicted felon. My Lord, where have we come to in this nation? And so we need to rewrite all of those applications. What you got on these applications for a job, or these applications to buy, or to rent, or to lease, anything. They're going to ask you that question if you have to fill out an application. It's, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And God help you if you say no and they found out that you did. You're going to lose the job, and you're going to lose the Section 8 and everything that depended on how you check that box. And what's good for the goose got to be good for the gander. If it's good for white folks and white privilege, then it's got to be good for black folks and black privilege. How can we have this uneven approach to justice? If I'm white, I get the privilege. But if I'm black, I get the penalty. That ain't right. No. All right, let me press on. My point was that Steve Bannon is trying to get the Congress to appeal to keep him out of prison for failure to appear before a congressional committee. And while I'm on that question, look who else in Congress failed to appear before a congressional committee. Why, it's Jim Jordan, the one that's always holding committee hearings and holding other people in contempt. While he failed to honor the subpoena that was given to him from the January 6th committee. Just like Steve Bannon failed to honor the subpoena that was given to him from the January 6th committee. He just held him in such contempt that he didn't show up. So now he's getting 4 months and he's scared to do 1 day of the 4 months. Yeah, tell me how equal justice is in the United States of America. All right. And going back to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court conservative court ruled that while you have a right to marry, you do not have a right to live together with your spouse. And the issue is that a citizen doesn't have a right to give a green card to your spouse, even though Melania Trump and all of her family were brought here by Donald Trump using the very law that the Supreme Court overthrew this week. And go figure. As I know, my brother-in-law was married to a lady from Ethiopia. Her name was Esther. And it was an understanding thing. He married her so she could be here legally. Because if you were married to an American, then you had a legal right to be in the country. And I won't go into how that marriage worked either. But the point is, you have a right and to have a spouse who's from another country. But if y'all married, then on the basis that you are a citizen, now she is likewise, or he, as the case may be, is likewise, can be regarded as a citizen based on you. And so you have a lot of precedent that this Supreme Court is just tossing around and tossing away willy-nilly. And you have to watch that kind of stuff. Remember that it was all of these John Roberts and every other one, even Brett Kavanaugh. They all talked about stare decisis. It's already standing and we will not overturn it. And with tradition and all of that. And as soon as they got a chance, they overturned Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs decision. And then turn around this year and overturn what? Affirmative action. Is that right? And then, so that's, they're just tearing up the precedent rulings that they claimed that they were going to adhere to. So, and then what was the lady's name? Susan Collins was seduced by John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh and all that crowd, and said they've learned their lesson. They ain't learned no lesson. They don't intend to do right. They've been those 6 conservative majority on the Supreme Court. Remember, Clarence Thomas ain't never been up there to do right. And Alito or Scalia, who has since passed away, but Alito and Thomas and Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and Ms. Barrett, and I'm missing 2, but you get the picture. They are hell-bent on rewriting all of the laws that protect the poor and the less fortunate and the weak that are among us. They're determined to overturn all of those laws that help the poor. I was talking to Mr. Blackwell before I came in to do this broadcast. He was telling me that they made it now, talking about the Supreme Court of the United States, have just passed a law, made a ruling that will make it difficult for the homeless to exist in America. And okay, now you're gonna make it homeless for me to exist. Well, now you're gonna make it impossible for me, a homeless person, to exist. Well, now where's my house, or where's my, where's my housing, or my place to stay? You're gonna tell me I can't be homeless? That's against the law. All right, now, where is the housing? These type of things. You say you're going to make a law that says you can't be poor. Well, now, if I'm not can't be poor, do like Joe Biden did. Put some money in my hand so I won't be poor. These type of thoughts. 5 minutes? All right. Remember, Jesus said, the poor you have with you always. So we who have been the richest country on the face of the earth should have solved this homeless problem 100 or 200 years ago. But a lot of it was based on racism because the white people that were in power, the people who called themselves white that were in power, didn't want to give any kind of benefit to the people who were not white. And that means especially black folks like me. Whether they were calling me colored or calling me Negro or calling me the N-word, they didn't want me to get no kind of benefit from the government. And that's why the slaves didn't get reparations. When General Granger read that order, said the slaves are now free and the war is over. Now, it should have made them pay reparations right then. And don't talk about working for wages. But wait a minute, what about them 246 years of wages, theft, that you didn't pay me for being and keeping me in a position of a slave? You know what I mean? If the controversy over reparations now would have been prevented if the people who fomented the secession and lost the war had been forced to pay the people whom they had formerly enslaved their back wages at that time. It would have been a different world. Also, if they had not violated General Sherman's Order Number 15 that gave 40 acres and a mule to every formerly enslaved person, the world would have been a different place. The United States wouldn't be what it is. Wouldn't be looking over its shoulder, and the international world would not be looking askance at America, because we as Americans, we talk about democracy and we talk about freedom, but yet we were the haven for slavery and for bondage. And this nation was built on bondage. I happened to be at a lecture given by Nicole Hannah-Jones. I'm going to cut this phone off, even though it's about time to go, thank God. Jones, in which she has a parallel version of when the nation started. She starts in 1619. The white folks said, no, it's 1776. Well, the slaves came in 1619. The first slaves were brought here. I'm talking about enslaved African person were brought here in 1619. Remember, the Mayflower came in the next year in 1620. Mayflower came past Ellis Island, but the enslaved Africans did not get the benefit of coming by Ellis Island. The Malcolm X said that the Mayflower, the Pilgrims came by Plymouth Rock, but the enslaved people, Plymouth Rock fell on them. All right, I mumbled you enough. Mr. Bowman lost the election because of AIPAC's contribution, and Mr. Latimer will assume his job in New York. And so we got some difficult days ahead, but don't give up. Please don't stop praying. Don't lose the faith, and don't be worried about Joe Biden's poor performance. Remember what he has done. All right, and as I close, if you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, take my advice. Don't waste your life. Don't get caught in the trap of living paycheck to paycheck. Don't be like the slaves. If they don't want to pay you, don't work further. Thank you. All right, Doc, we out of here.